So in March, we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and a lot of times we think of corned beef and cabbage. But the funny thing is, they're not going to be eating that in Dublin, because corned beef and cabbage came about when the Irish immigrants came to America, and they were really wanting something from their homeland, which would normally be bacon. And so they couldn't find that, so they went to a brisket cut, which was a cheaper cut at that time, and kind of made that salt brine to kind of remind them of the bacon back home that they boiled. And so a lot of Irish immigrants started eating this as their St. Patrick's Day tradition, and we've kind of taken it on as Americans to do so as well. I know every St. Patrick's Day, this is one of the treats that I want to share with my children, and it's a cut of brisket, but it's salt brined, and some of the salt, the coarse salt kernels that are used to brine this meat are called corns, and so that's why it's corned beef. And usually corned beef will come in a plastic container, just like this. It's a brisket in there. It has some of the liquid brine in it as well, and it also has this seasoning packet that's very important. Some people might say that it tastes a little bit like pickled meat, and this pickling spices that are included in the corned beef kind of gives it that flavor. But one of the things about corned beef, it's brisket, and so we need to cook it in a low, slow, moist environment, and a slow cooker is perfect for that. So that's what we're going to do today. You can just buy this, put it in there before you leave for work in the morning, and then when you get home, you'll have your own Irish inspired meal. And so it's very easy. We take 8 to 10 of these little red potatoes, and we want to make sure that we put in all of our vegetables in the very bottom. We want to quarter those, and it depends on how much your family loves potatoes. You can do more or less. That's completely up to you. And so just make sure they go in the bottom there of your roasting pan. And so we're also using some beer in this, and when we think of the Irish, we think of beer, but it also supports our barley farmers and our hops farmers that we have right here in the state of Kentucky as well as in the Midwest. And so we'll be putting a little bit of that in there for a little bit added flavor, but it gives the dish a little bit of depth as well. And so we have an onion here that we're going to coarsely chop and stick in there as well. And this is really going to just give it some flavor when you get it out after you get home from work. Your onions are going to be cooked down quite a bit, and so it's just going to add a little bit of extra flavor. And then we put in some baby carrots. If you have whole carrots that you want to stick in there, about 4 whole carrots will be great for this dish, and just place those in there as well. I've got a lot of potatoes. I'm going to leave that particular potato out. I have about 4 cups of water that we want to pour over our vegetables, because remember, we want that slow, moist heat, and the slow cooker provides that, but we need a little bit of water in there to do that. And then we're going to take our brisket. We're going to take our brisket and put that on top of the root vegetables, and we're going to take our seasoning packet and we're going to sprinkle this over the top. And then we're going to cook this in the crock pot for 8 hours. We're going to put half of this beer in there to kind of give it that bubbling flavor. And then you have half a beer left. I'm going to put a little bit more in there. And then you just want to cook this on low for 8 hours. And then you're going to cut up and coarsely chop half a head of cabbage and put that on top, because you can't have corned beef without cabbage. And so you basically have a full meal. After we put the cabbage in, you leave it in there for about another hour, and then your meal is ready to plate and celebrate St. Patrick's with your family.